questions?
Well, hold on. Let's get a few things straight. Not Chester County, Chester City.
Chester City, I'm sorry.
Chester City's in Delaware County. It's really confusing. Just to give you some background why it's so confusing, there used to not be a Delaware County. Everything was Chester County. Chester City was the county seat, if you will. And then at some point when we became less of a farm area and started to grow up, Delaware County was created. Chester City sits in Delaware County. To make it more confusing, the community called Westchester is in Chester County. So when people who aren't from here kind of hear these words and names, they really get confusing. To make it more confusing, there's a street called Chester Pike, and there's a street called Westchester Pike. But on Chester Pike, if you look on the map, there's a West Chester Pike and an East Chester Pike. So I'm not really criticizing, just kind of get some clarity. And as far as being a mayor, I won the primary for mayor, but I have a challenger in the fall. So I think the official word they say is presumptive mayor. It's presumed that I'm going to win. It's not too unlike the situation in Philadelphia with Ms. Sherelle Parker being the heavy favorite as a Democrat. So let's get started.
I'm wishing you good luck.
Thanks. that still applies.
So this first question, why are you running for mayor?
Why am I running for mayor? The whole plan 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, was to run for mayor. I was talking to someone in the audience today about having your arm twisted, never thinking that politics would be in my future. But I've been a community journalist since 2006 in the city of Chester. So from all that time, I've known the issues that face government, school district, the community, the churches. And some smart person, some person smarter than me, came up to me and says, you've got all the skills that would be suitable to run, for a government position, elected official. And I was like, I don't really think so. But then again, other factors came into consideration too. One of them was my age and my position with my full-time job. And I was like, I am kind of ready to retire. I do outside work, and I was like, I don't know if 5 years from now I'm going to be as open and willing to be, working in the elements. This government thing could be physically a lot easier to do, and my goodness, maybe I can do it. So the plan a couple years ago was not to run for city council, which I am right now in the city of Chester. It was just to wait until the mayor's election, which we are at right now. But then I guess smarter minds said, hey, why don't you consider just putting a campaign team together, maybe run for council, win or lose, at least you'll have a team together, you'll get a sense of how it works. Little did we know we'd just kick behind for council. And then, now I'm a city council person. So it was obvious that we were going to run for mayor anyway, but now I'm doing it with a lot more insight, having had 2 years inside of city government, seeing exactly things that I assumed from an outsider looking in. Now that I'm an insider, seeing how government works, I was like, oh my God, this place needs some help, and it needs help from the top. So just finishing the job of some dream that someone else had for me a couple years ago, but in all seriousness, I love the city of Chester. I've made that impact, as a community journalist, sharing information for years, getting people more familiar with what's going on in their city that they can get, that they could not get anywhere else. So as much as I didn't realize it, it's really been a natural flow. So that's why I'm running for mayor, because they're gonna put some respect on our name.
Well, that's a great segue into my next question. So in your opinion, what are the big issues facing Chester right now?
Chester's future is a big issue facing Chester right now. For those of you who don't know, financially, we're in a bad shape. We are in bankruptcy. Any of you guys ever been in bankruptcy? Does anyone know what bankruptcy means? Kind of like personal bankruptcy, if you were to just, do I see him? Oh, no.
No, I just pulled my sleeve up.
I mean, personally, we would go into bankruptcy if we ran up credit cards or, had a mortgage, a car payment, lost our job, couldn't pay it, and you just, to a point where I just can't pay my bills anymore, and you go to court and try to find some relief. It does affect your credit rating for a while, but more times than not, if you get there early enough, you can repair things and kind of start over. So that's where the city is. You know, bankruptcy is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's the state that we're at right now. We're having an opportunity to correct some wrongs of the past and kind of move forward in a different direction, negotiate new deals, get rid of some bad deals. So we are in bankruptcy. So when a city is in bankruptcy, a lot of people don't trust you. So cities depend on a lot of entities, a lot of businesses, a lot of people to do business with us in order for us to survive. So it's important for us to get out of bankruptcy. So we're broke. That's one of the big issues facing our city right now. The other issue, a big issue that's facing our city right now, is just the fact that we have always been an industrial town. We're right on the Delaware River. Industry loves water, if they need water to operate. And, you know, back in the olden days, pollution was no big thing. In more modern days, pollution is a big thing. People are realizing that polluting industries affect the health and the welfare of your community, to the point that people straight up just get sick. So the health disparities in the city of Chester are far greater than they are just 5 miles out of Chester, 10 miles out of Chester. And when I say sick, I mean sick. People, we have high rates of asthma and heart attacks and strokes and premature births and infant mortality and diabetes and so on and so on and so on. So one of the issues has to be to either get rid of some of these industries, but that's a trade-off, right? Industries also bring money to your city. My job is to stop more polluting industries from coming in, because we're a poor, black, uneducated, unsophisticated, sometimes unintelligent town. Some of these big industries just think they can just move right in, sneak right in, stomp right in, walk right over us. So a big issue we have right now is an industry that wants to liquefy natural gas. And that's something that me as a mayor will try to stop every way that I can. A city as old as Chester has old homes. I mean, physically old homes. Homes are 100 years old. They're crumbling, they're falling apart. We'll probably never be a suburban bedroom community with, you know, $400,000 homes, but we can be a better community for the people that will likely end up in Chester, and that's people who are, you know, need affordable housing. So one of the big issues I want to address is replacing old affordable housing with new affordable housing. So that's a big deal. And just general basic services that people expect. People expect roads to be paved. People don't expect their basements to be flooded. People don't like to see their neighbor's grass grow up 2 feet high because the person who owns the house has abandoned the house. Slumlords run rampant in the city that have for so many years been allowed to run rampant. So those are some of the issues that I'm looking to address.
And I'll get back to that, but in your opinion, does Chester have a future?
Chester has a huge, bright future. You know, when you're at rock bottom, which we are, and anything good can happen. You just have to seek the good and fight for the good, and sometimes recruit for the good. One of the great things that's happening in our town right now is the Philadelphia Union Major League Soccer team, which is located, the stadium is in Chester. These guys have committed to staying in Chester. They're putting up like $65 million of their own money, creating a sports complex, which will include outdoor fields. So there'll be constant activity. There'll be a field house where would create constant activity. It's kind of great having a professional franchise in your town, but when that franchise only plays 25 to 30 games a year in your town, you know, how good is it? So this sports complex will draw people, hundreds of people on a daily basis. They'll have the, you know, sports, youth sports is huge. You know, the tournaments, the trainings, and all that type of stuff is coming to Chester. It's going to give a really a big shot in the arm to our waterfront. But that's a private entity. So what we have to do is, in city government, is parlay off of that and bring those same facilities and opportunities across the city. So I'm looking for Chester to be a sports mecca. We have 250 acres of parkland that is totally underutilized. Chester's kind of known as a basketball town, but you know, we can take what they're doing at the Philadelphia Union and use some of our parkland to put in and it's coming, a miniature golf course. Not putt-putt type golf course, but there's programs, one particular called First Tee, and I'm gonna shout them out because we had them come down to one of our parks. They looked around. I said, all I want is a driving range. And I wish I did have a PowerPoint to show you the plan that they came back with, but it's driving range. It's a 6-hole, 3-par kind of golf course. It's a big golf house with a top golf simulator so they can train in the winter. And it's gonna be an asset for the county, but certainly it's gonna look good in the city. We've got tennis courts that we don't even use. I've tried to introduce pickleball to the city, but they just laugh at me. They're like, pickleball, what is pickleball? I was like, everybody else but us. You know, we need a couple swimming pools, but youth sports is a big deal. Wouldn't it be great if we could bring an Amazon warehouse or something to town, or even an Amazon headquarters? Those are some of the things that, you know, we could look for down the road. Usually when downtowns have gone away, like Chester has gone away in the sense of not being a viable business district where people come down and shop, it's the artist community that kind of takes these spaces and turn them into, you know, they're the revitalizers. They're the guys who kind of bring new life to downtown, and that has already happened. So for the past 6 or 7 years, our artist community has taken over some of these old abandoned spaces, making them lively and bright and engaging, getting the community, young people in particular, into the arts. It's attracting new business in our downtown area. And we have a university. So I love talking about Widener University. It's a mainstream school. And I just, for the life of me, can't understand for all the years that Widener University, formerly Pennsylvania Military College, has been in the city, Chester still doesn't represent itself as a college town. Does Oxford consider itself a college town? I'm gonna ask you guys.
Yeah. Lower Oxford.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, the things that you do outside, the businesses cater to, you know, the students. You kind of encourage them to come out and, you know, support the local economy. That doesn't happen in Chester, so that's another aspect. Just a half mile from Widener University is Crozier Hospital. If you've heard the term eds and meds, it's usually another entity that helps revive towns. We've had both in place for decades, but there just hasn't been that vision to parlay that into something constructive. Chester, Pennsylvania has I-95 running right through it. That's an important piece. Like, people can get in and out of Chester easier than just about any other place in Delaware County. We have that river. You know, that river is an asset. If nothing else, there should be little swan paddle boats somewhere going around so, you know, kids can enjoy. Or maybe a Spirit of Philadelphia little cruise ship that just runs circles, you know, making money. So recreation-wise, we don't even take advantage of our river. What else do we have? We have the Amtrak SEPTA line that runs right through our city, so you can get in and out pretty easily. We are closer to the Philadelphia airport than most Philadelphians. I mean, all those aspects that urban planners would say, this makes a perfect location to just do anything you want to do. For some reason, it's been stalled for a long time. So as mayor, my job is just to bring that new vision and to bring the partners in to make at least some of that happen.
I do want to piggyback off of going back to the financial, plan. What is the game plan to combat, bankruptcy in the city?
You can't combat bankruptcy, you just go through bankruptcy. It's unfortunate that we had to get to the point of bankruptcy, but it didn't happen overnight. So how did we get to bankruptcy? It's not like the city put ourselves in bankruptcy. In fact, bankruptcy is a super expensive process. And I often say that our city was so broke, we couldn't even have put ourselves in bankruptcy, despite the fact that we needed to be there. It's tens of millions of dollars just to go through the legal process. Some people think it's just the lawyers' retirement funds. It's amazing how much money lawyers make when you go through these bankruptcies, particularly municipal bankruptcies. How did it all get started? It all got started because we just made some bad decisions, particularly on our police pensions. So when police retire, they expect to get paid for the rest of their lives. At least that's the deal they signed up for. They expect to get health benefits for the rest of their lives. At least that's what they signed up for. And they can do so after just 20 years of service. So if you're 21 years old and you become a policeman, at 41 years old, you can retire and get paid from the city for the rest of your life and have benefits. And isn't that great? Wouldn't that be a good deal? Wouldn't everybody sign up for that? Of course they would.
It is a good deal.
It is a good deal.
I'm on it.
But then, somewhere down the road, you kind of say, man, is that a deal we kind of promised and can't keep that promise? And that's where the city of Chester became. And then we shot ourselves in the foot, because in order to make the money available to guys like you in your retirement, we have to constantly put money into the pot so that as these police officers retire, there's money there for them. And for some strange reason, there's people in city government who decided, you know what, we're kind of broke. We kind of could use some money over here or over there. There's some things you can skimp on, but there's one thing you shouldn't skimp on, and that's those pension funds. And particularly the pension fund was underfunded, was not funded at all. Well, I'll say grossly underfunded. There's a number that cities have to pay. It's all determined by these smart people. And they say, let's say you have to put in $2 million a year, $3 million a year. And if you say, I'm not gonna do it. Just like if you're late on your taxes and the penalties and interests add up, boy, these penalties and interest add up a lot. So what happened is Chester got like $45 million behind in the money that they should have had in their police pension fund specifically. And the governor recognized that. The Governor Wolf recognized that, man, you guys are like 6 months away from just not having any money in that pension pot. Now, imagine yourself as that police person who did the job out in the streets, dangerous job, you survived, you've been retired, you're getting your check every month, and all of a sudden you stop getting a check just because somebody in government decided they were gonna use the money somewhere else. Would you be happy? Nah, you wouldn't be happy. Of course you wouldn't be happy. And that's what the governor wanted to avoid. So in order to fix the situation, he had to assume somebody or somebodies in Chester City government don't know what they're doing. So we're gonna send you somebody who knows what they're doing in the name of a receiver. I call a receiver the equivalent of like a financial planner if we got into financial trouble ourselves. So the receiver comes down, he looks at the city's finances, he's gonna try to fix it. While he's trying to fix it, he's trying to identify, how did it ever get to this place again? And how can we get to a point that it never happens again? And strangely, in Chester City, you would think that would be like a big help. You'd say, oh, thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you so much. You're sending us free help, who just seems to have a blank check to get all the resources that he needs to get this job done. You would think that the city government would participate with this guy, or even just get out the way. Just do what you gotta do, fix it, and then we'll slide back in and take it from there after you straighten out the situation. And Chester is one of those rare, super rare instances where we resisted receivership. Our existing city government said, oh, why are you here? We got this, we'll run this. Don't be trying to run our government. We're in charge here. So there's been this kind of battle between city government and the receiver. The receiver's gonna do what the receiver's gonna do. He's sent here by the governor, but city government is trying to stop him in many ways. So in the process of the receiver doing his work and uncovering what he's uncovering, he's realizing that this situation is bad. And they usually don't say it's bad. They usually say it's the worst they've ever seen. And then they don't say it's the worst they've ever seen. They say, by far, it's the worst they've ever seen. So they really didn't have many more options other than to go into bankruptcy. So bankruptcy was, the receiver put Chester in bankruptcy on behalf of the city. So that's where we are. We're in bankruptcy. It could take a year or two to get through this whole process. In the meantime, hundreds of thousands of dollars are being paid to lawyers, which, reasonable people like us would say, well, could you use that very hundreds of thousands of dollars to go back into the city to help things work out? Well, you probably could, but you messed up. So bankruptcy is a way to bring all the people that we owe money to and all the court cases and all the everything just comes to a halt. And people sit down at the table and you negotiate. And the negotiation is, in the simplest way I can describe it is, we owe you money, but we can't afford to pay you money. So we can either work out a deal or you ain't getting no money. So usually deals are worked out. And when you come out of it, at the end, the city usually has, it comes out not free and clear, but having to be in less financial straits than they were. And then you try to put the pieces together and move forward. So that's the bankruptcy part. We're right probably in the middle of that process. I'd really expect it to go on at least another year or two. The biggest part of the negotiations is between the city and the unions, which have negotiated contracts like the pensions. What we would hope doesn't happen is that deal that the police had signed and thought they were going to get, or the fire, or the regular employees, don't change. But we've seen, history has told us that those deals can be changed in situations like this. And that makes a lot of people mad, and rightly so.
So, yeah, great answer.
But I don't have anything to do with bankruptcy. In fact, I'm kind of locked out of the whole bankruptcy procedure, so that's important to know too, because people could assume that the mayor is in there fighting those battles, with the receiver, against the receiver, for the creditors, for the pensioners. We're really on the outskirts. It's a federal process. The bankruptcy is a federal thing. You got guys from Washington, D.C., and very expensive lawyers. I can't stress that enough. It's amazing how much money is being paid to lawyers. I'm talking like $1,100, $1,200 an hour, these people are billing. And in some cases, the city have to pay those bills, to those lawyers. But I sit with the receiver every now and then, and I don't get much information as to what's going on. It's going to be at the time that it's over, when the grand deal is presented, that we'll know what effect bankruptcy had.
All right, my last question. You are at Lincoln University, the
Yay.
first pre-granting HBCU. And HBCUs are like a hot topic right now. Is there any plan for you, when you become mayor, to build like a education pipeline program to encourage your students in your school districts to go to HBCUs?
They already do go to HBCUs. I mean, the Chester Upland School District is predominantly black. Every year when I see, when I'm at the graduations and those who have declared where they're going, they're by and far going to HBCUs. So there's nothing I have to do to strengthen that relationship. But relationships with all schools is important for a city like ours, who just need help, who just need resources, who just need brain power. And, not to dismiss Lincoln, but we've got a university right in our backyard that offer courses of study that we could benefit from those professors, from those grad students, from those law students, from those engineers to work with us in the city. So yes, pipelines have to be established, with all education entities who want to work together with us. Will one get favor over the other? Only to the extent that one has, programs and professionals and people that would want to work with us. I love the relationship I have with Lincoln. A dear friend of mine is a professor here, and that's what, brings me here today. So you can expect that, the city of Chester will always, look to Lincoln as a place to draw talent and coordinate activities. And we're doing it in ways that aren't so direct right now, but the relationship is already strong and will continue to grow. So thank you, Lincoln, for inviting us. We've got plenty of Chester graduates who've come through Lincoln, so, you know, it's not a new relationship, but, you know, we're gonna find something to really hook into. And entrepreneurship, which this is all about, is really huge, because it's gonna take the entrepreneur mindset to bring us out of the situation that we're in, the staid and true way of doing business as a government is a business. City government is a business. In our city, it's like a $65 million business that hasn't been treated like a business. So that's going to change real quick.
All right, well, I want to thank you for coming out.
That's all I had to do.
No. And we want to open the floor for any questions for Mr.
Oh,
Riggs.
questions. Hi.
So I'm from Chester.
Yay.
And I've attended multiple schools in Chester Upland School District. So many people like get to charter schools or they go outside the school district. Do you see like a future, a positive future for school districts? Yeah.
So are you saying, do I see more students getting back to the public school system as opposed to the charters? The charters pose an interesting opportunity and dilemma for Chester all at once. The opportunity, particularly for parents, is choice. And when a parent has a child that they have to decide where they're going to school, do they want them going to those old public school buildings that don't have heat and air conditioning and seem to always be bastions of trouble? Or do they go to that new shiny thing that's, you know, just equidistant in town? And a lot of parents have chosen the charter school as a choice that they wanted to go. Charter school itself, you know, when you talk about the funding formula for charter schools, it was never designed to be what it has become in Chester. Like charter schools, if you had a school district, maybe 5 to 10% of your students should kind of can go to a charter school without affecting the finances of your, you know, like public schools. In Chester, more than half the kids go to charter schools. So the public school system is just limping along because the dollars follow the kids that go to charter schools. What's going to reverse that? You know, it's going to be a lot of decisions that have to do with funding of what the public schools have to give to the charter schools. The one thing I can say, and the test results have proven year after year after year in a city like Chester, the Chester Upland School District, the public school district, still performs better than the charter schools. So, you know, if it was just based on performance, you would think parents would kind of have their kids go to the public schools, but it's just not happening because of the bright and the shiny and like some of the things that the charter schools can do. Nothing's going to change soon.
I'm also from Chester. I graduated from STEM Academy in 2021. I'm just curious, like, you know, Chester has a very negative, like, we have a very negative stigma behind the city. Like, as mayor, what differences, what changes do you plan to make it better for my siblings and myself?
Sure. I kind of chuckle because I kind of started off, we didn't go out with respect on our name. That's a big deal, and that's something you're going to hear me say a lot. Chester has done a horrible job of reputation management. Like you said, we have a bad stigma in our name, whether it's violence, whether it's bad schools, maybe whether it's the fact that we're mostly a black town. We get talked about, we get criticized, a lot of it's unfair, a lot of it is in the press, it rolls around. But we never fight back, we never talk back, we never talk about the good that's coming out of our town, or we never talk about the lies that are told about us. Having been that community journalist for so long, a lot of people are going to get a lot of clapback, you know, as far as who we are, what we do, what we're about, what we're trying to accomplish. And we're going to reach out for help from some of these same communities that criticize us. I always call Chester that warm bath water. Like if I go away and come back into Chester, it's always comfortable to me. You know, as much as it is a 75%, you know, black town, that's so comfortable because there's some towns that are right around Chester that are mixed population, and that's where you usually end up with these racial tensions and class tensions and stuff like that. We don't have that issue in Chester. When you come to Chester, man, you're waving at everybody, you're talking to everybody, you all went to the same high school, there's a lot of togetherness. And that's a lot of the reason why so many people, despite the condition that Chester is in, love to stay in Chester. Chester has a sea pride, as we call it. Sometimes I think the pride is a little overzealous, but it's really a community that's tight, it's loved, it's a lot of families that know each other. It's everything that you see in other communities, but it doesn't have the shiny luster type, bedroom community thing about it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fight back. I'm gonna fight the people who call us the bad boys, of the county. We are no longer gonna be considered the armpit of the county and all those other things. And we do have a lot of people and communities around us that do support us. I think in a real sense, younger people are a lot more, they recognize that they can't continue to dump on Chester forever. A good, for instance, is that all the county's trash, all of Delaware County's trash gets sent to Chester to get burned. And burning trash is not good for your lungs, and it smells bad, and it looks bad. So over the last couple of years, I've been going to county council and, telling people, come on county, you gotta do better. And you're starting to see like maybe a half dozen, a little more communities in their own council meetings end up voting on telling the county, we don't want our trash being sent to Chester, come up with alternatives. So it's things like that we're gonna just continue to harp on, and we have some friends outside the community, and we want them to come in and fight with us to make Chester a better place. As Chester grows, so does the county. It's just no doubt about it. They can't keep us down. Ladies first.
Okay. I know where she's going.
How long have you lived in Chester, and what is the occupation prior to the city council?
My occupation?
Yeah, that you do outside.
How long have I lived? I was born in Chester, so let's go back to 1961. So that's when I was born.
Okay.
I lived in Chester up until the time I graduated college, which was 1982. And I didn't move far. I moved to, just outside of Chester. I didn't really go away from Chester for the first time until 1994. I moved out to Denver, lived out there for 5 years, and then got tired of being in the mountains. I like water better. I wanted to come back east, and I came to New York City, a place I never thought I'd ever live in my life, and lived and worked there for 3 years. And that was right at the time those planes went flying through the building. They call it 9/11, and my whole department got just wiped out. And I came back to Chester in like 2002, 2003, and have been here since.
So
What was
your
your other question?
outdoor occupation?
Oh, other occupation, right now I am a state certified wastewater operator. I work for the
Wastewater.
Delcora, the Delaware County,
Oh, Delcora.
Delcora. You know Delcora? Okay, good.
No, yes.
You know, yes. So my degree is in engineering, electrical engineering. So I did that for a couple years and quickly got into business, the business side of engineering. So I couldn't engineer myself out of a paper bag right now. But, been more of a businessman than an engineer, but I love industry. And, it gets to a point where you get to like 50 years old and nobody wants to hire you because you're old or for whatever reason. But I've found a lot of success working as an operator with my hands, first at the Sunoco refinery for 6 or 7 years before it closed, and then with Delcora. So that's what I really like to do.
Okay. You ready for this one?
No.
All right, the receiver is in favor of selling CWA to Aqua. Where do you stand on that?
You must have more information than me, but that is a situation that's going on. We have a water company, Chester Water Authority. They provide us with clean drinking water. It's the water you shower in, the water you wash your dishes with.
They have CWA water here.
Oh, really? It comes all the way out here? Okay.
How many
It's-
others are Chester residents, by
Yeah, how many?
chance? Oh, I'm
Just-
curious.
Just you.
Just the two of you? Okay.
I think there's a close Chester connection here. Chester Water is one of those water utilities that really do a good job. They really do a good job, and they sell us water for super duper cheap. I think it's almost artificially low, the prices that we pay for water. In this bankruptcy scenario, the receiver has to squeeze out every dollar he can out of Chester. Like, he's got to find every dollar that he can in order to save our city. So Chester has assets, and one of our assets is the Chester Water Authority. Was it Richard Pryor, one of those old comedians, would say, like, you know, I'm your daddy, I brought you in this world, I can take you out this world. That's sort of the situation we're in with the Chester Water Authority. It was created by the city of Chester to serve the city of Chester. But as it's grown from just a small water company, it has grown into Chester only represents 22% of its customers, and the rest of the water goes to as far as out here.
Oh, this whole area.
This whole area, okay. So there's a price tag. Like, it's an entity. Has anybody ever played Monopoly?
Mhm.
Yeah, and on the Monopoly board, you've got utilities. Utilities are really valuable, right? And Chester Water Authority is one of those utilities that is, at first was approached by a company called Aqua, who does that same type of work. They tried to do like a hostile takeover. They say, we're gonna buy you. And the board on the Chester Water Authority said, no, you're not. And then it became evident that Chester was in trouble. So then it became a whole different scenario. It's like, we're gonna buy you because it's gonna save your city. We're gonna pay you so much money that's gonna be passed on to your city that you can get out of bankruptcy. You don't even have to go into bankruptcy. You'll be out of receivership, your pensions will be paid, and all that's going on. So now the receiver's here, so he plays a part in what's gonna happen. I will, unless you know something I don't know, the receiver's first move is not to sell the Chester Water Authority to an Aqua, but to what he calls monetize the asset, which is Chester Water Authority. What does monetize mean compared to sell? Sell means I'm gonna sell you this for $50, you're gonna give me $50, and then we're happy, we'll never have to see each other again. Monetizing means, hey, you know, we're gonna kind of share this together. You're gonna give me some money up front, we're gonna kind of own this together, but in order for you to kind of still have use of this, you're gonna give me money every year. So that's what monetizing is. Again, I'm not in on the details of what these negotiations are, but I know that's his first pass at dealing with Chester Water Authority. And I will say this in defense of receivership, not of this receiver, but of receivership in general. Governor Wolf could have sent us somebody else. It didn't have to be this guy that he sent. He could have sent somebody down here that could have got us out of financial problems right away by having somebody who could have negotiated, facilitated, forced a sale of the Chester Water Authority just to get Chester out of trouble and then have gone away. It doesn't look like it's the direction that they want to go. But the bigger question is, and the thing that you have to consider if you haven't already, is if it works out the way that you just said, if Aqua, American Water or any of those other companies just outright buys the Chester Water Authority, will all that money come to the city of Chester? Obviously it would, but who's stopping people here in Oxford or in Ridley or in any of these other towns in Chester County or Delaware County who are served by Chester Water Authority saying, hey, wait a minute, Chester's only 22% of the customer base. We deserve some of this money too. We're part owners, we're a part of this too. Would Chester ever hold on to every dollar that they realize as a result of that sale?
Right.
I don't think so.
So with that same thought, why would the receiver not accept the offer by Chester Water Authority, by the Chester Water Authority from the city of Chester? And what was the rub between Mayor Kirkland at the time, and now that there's friction, would the city not try to entertain that to help move away from their financial issues and let everybody be happy and not try to let a public company put that debt on the back of ratepayers in the city and beyond. So why is nobody entertaining that? I'm just
All
curious.
right, so the last point you made is an important point for you guys to understand. If you go to the suburbs, not so much in the city of Chester, but you'll see a lot of lawn signs that say, save CWA, save the Chester Water Authority. It's because communities outside of Chester don't take too kindly to the fact that if the water company is sold, their rates are gonna go up for the benefit of saving Chester. Did that make sense? Y'all get that? Yeah.
But Chester City's water rates will also go up.
Mhm.
You know, we've seen.
And you
I
talked
think-
about it, I'm sorry,
Hey,
you talked about Chester being a poor community. That-
Now, you don't even have to finish your sentence.
Your taxpayers aren't gonna be able to afford water.
Here's the
Mark.
best example I can tell you. I'm a resident in Penn Township,
See
neighboring
how
township,
big a topic this is?
okay? I have Chester Water and I have Aqua for sewer. 2 people in my house, my wife and I. We use 7,000 gallons per quarter of water. It costs me $82 for the water.
All right, so per quarter, that's every 3 months,
Yes.
$82, that's $25 a month. Like I said, the price of water is beautiful. Mwah. But go
For
ahead.
the same amount of sewer.
So hold on again. He gets $7,000, 7,000 gallons of water into his, let's just call it house, from Chester Water Authority. That same 7,000 gallons leaves his house, and he has to pay a separate bill for the water leaving out, and that's his sewer bill. Continue.
My sewer bill was $324, 4 times as much as the water.
Is that fair? Damn it. He
You
gets
want
clean
the
water
big-
in for
The
$25 a
big
month.
problem is Aqua is a for-profit company. They have stockholders. They gotta give them money. You take New Garden Township, sold their sewer system for $29 million. It wasn't worth $29 million. I mean, it's a disgrace.
It's
So
a-
why-
And the other thing,
I'm gonna get back to all your answers.
the other thing, did Chester Water Authority put the city of Chester in financial trouble? Or did the city of Chester put itself in financial trouble?
See how complex this can be? But that's a question. Whose fault is it? Is it Chester Water Authority? It's not Chester Water Authority. They're self-contained, they're making money, they're making a profit, they're giving a great product at a super duper price, especially for a community like Chester that's, 30% poverty rate.
You know,
There's no place that needs cheap water than a place that has a 30% poverty rate. If those water rates go up 2, 3, 4 times, there's already people who can't pay their water bill. Can you imagine the number of people who won't be able to pay their water bill if the rates go up,
And
as
also-
they generally do when private companies sell them? It's a tough issue. Now, you asked about why didn't the receiver take that first deal where the
Well,
water
that's-
company was
that's
gonna
not even
offer
the
$60 million to the city.
Before the receiver was even appointed.
Before he was even here.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about the Department of Community and Economic Development's role in this and why I get, trying to, privatize, wastewater, water infrastructure throughout the Commonwealth to help alleviate the burden on, local governments, et cetera.
I don't, but go ahead.
You don't, okay.
Well,
Because we let the infrastructure go for so long.
All right,
and it
and that's a
hasn't-
great point.
And it hasn't been addressed.
so there are, it's that Act 12 piece, that piece where people like the Aquas of the world, who are great companies, who do great jobs, they've done a lot of favors for the state of Pennsylvania in acquiring some of these water treatment and wastewater treatment systems, particularly in the rural sections of our state that just can't maintain themselves. So for pennies on the dollar, the Aqua comes in, they suck them up, they gather them up. Should they also be allowed to purchase well-running companies like a Delcora, like a Chester Water Authority, just for profit's sake? And yeah, your point is really valid. You know, the whole formula is different. Chester Water Authority doesn't have to pay anybody. And Aqua has to pay $1 million salaries to their executives. They have to pay the people who own stock. And the only place that money comes from is you guys who pay your water bill. So that's why your bill goes up. It's a really simple formula. It's not complicated. What makes it complicated is that these guys are allowed to come in, and sometimes cities are so hard pressed for money that they will literally sell their soul, that being their utilities, just to balance their books, or just to pave a road, or just to, you know, make the books work.
So to go back to those favors, because all those things that you talked about early on of the great ideas that you would be coming to Chester with as mayor, it would seem to me if they could put this issue aside by working it out with, because then the debt wouldn't be on the backs of anybody else. Chester Water Authority could be independent, their customers could have reasonable rates, and then the infrastructure could be addressed as you try to promote these other goodwill
Okay,
things.
so
okay?
let me,
Yeah.
hold on. I'm gonna put a pin in this discussion because we can say it
Yeah.
forever, but I'm
Sorry.
gonna conclude with this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna conclude with this.
yeah.
There's nothing that the receiver can do that's gonna suck up enough money out of Chester that's going to get the city of Chester out of trouble. All he can do is his best shot. I don't know what it's gonna be at the end. It's gonna be negotiations from bankruptcy. It's gonna be selling assets. Some combination of the two is gonna come up with a dollar figure. He also has the job of figuring out how much money does the city need to survive? You know, not just now, but through the future. There's gonna be a delta. There's gonna be a difference. And with that difference, he's gonna go to Harrisburg and he's gonna sit with the governor and those people and say, all right, you guys, you gotta cut a check. You gotta cut a check for the difference. Will they be willing to cut a check? If they are, how big a check are they willing to cut? This is what I'm calling the grand compromise. It's gonna be the big bargain. It's gonna be Governor Shapiro, the receivership of Chester, literally asking for that difference of money. What's gonna happen at that point, who knows? Governor Shapiro could say, forget Chester, let it become unincorporated. Let us figure it out some other kind of way. That's not likely gonna happen. They're likely gonna write a check, but I'm probably gonna be there at that time when that's going to happen. And, you know, sometimes all intentions, all great plans, all beliefs go out the wind when somebody has a shotgun to your head.
So that's why state
I
officials
just
would
wanna
be.
be conscious of our
Yeah,
time.
I'm sorry.
We have a class coming in.
Oh, I wanna go.